For the final section in this unit, we are going to talk about linear word problems. When we have word problems, it's not always clear which form to use, so this video will go over strategies to know which one will be easiest to help you solve problems. Slope-intercept form, or y equals mx plus b, is best when there is a slope given as well as a y-intercept. And how do we know? Well, the m is usually a rate. So it'll say something like per day, for example. And then the y-intercept can be anything from a starting point to a fee. These will help you to understand that. And we'll do some examples where you will see what that looks like. Standard form is best for when there are two values or rates for two different variables. And it is important to define your variables when using standard form. So you'll have an x and a y. It'll look something like ax plus by equals a number. And that usually involves two different types of things that you're working with. Point slope form is helpful when you're given a slope, so a rate, and a point. The point will not be the starting amount. And it will be something along the lines of like one of our word problems says $9 per day, and then after 4 days he has $121 left. So there's no information in there about a starting point, so you won't be able to answer the question with y equals mx plus b. We'll have to convert it. 2 points are when we're given two sets of information. You have to find the rate first, which will turn into the slope. Then use point slope form or slope intercept form to create your equations. And so what's most important with these is reading the information in the problems and deciding what you have and what you need to find. A lot of the time they'll tell you which form is helpful and then ask a question about it. So we're going to do some examples here. So here we have an example that says Bill is spending on average $9 per day. After 4 days, he has $121 left. Write a linear equation to solve to determine how much Bill will have after 7 days. So some key pieces of information here. Spending an average of $9 per day. This is our rate. So if he's spending, it's our slope or our rate is going to be negative 9. And the x will be where it goes within our y equals mx plus b. After 4 days, here's another piece of information. So because in our problem, our rate is per day, that means our x value is going to refer to days. So in this case, in our point that we are given here, 4 is the x. $121 left is the y value. So you can tell which value is going to be the x and which value is going to be the y based on the rate. In this case, the rate is per day. So days is the x value. So I'm going to show you how to do this with both slope-intercept form and point-slope form. In slope-intercept form, we are going to substitute in what we know. We know that y is 121. We know that x is negative 9, or sorry, our slope is negative 9. Our x is 4, and we're going to solve for b. So we get 121 equals negative 36 plus b. We can add 36 to both sides and solve for b. This gives us 157 as our b. Okay, so what we need to do here is we need to put in what we know from our equation, from our slope and our b into our equation. Our slope is -9, and he starts off with here $157. Okay, so moving forward here, what we are going to do is, in a minute, we'll use this equation to answer the question, how much money will Bill have after 7 days? Here's how you would do the problem if you were using point slope form. We know that -9 is our slope, and our point is 121. So you would do plug it in, then do the distributive property. Oops, that would be -9x. Sorry, my apologies here. -9x plus 36. Then we add 121 to both sides, and you're done. You should notice that our equations match. And that's a good thing. You can use either way to do this. So now, how do we find out our answer? Well, we substitute in what we know in our question. Determine how much money Bill will have after 7 days. So once again, days is our x value. We're going to substitute in 7 for x. So y equals -9 times 7 plus 157. So if we do -9 times 7, we get 63. And it's negative, plus 157. We would simplify and get 94. So after 7 days, he will have $94. This problem is a little bit easier. Example 2. We can see here that an airplane with no fuel, so our starting point is 2,575 pounds. So starting point, that's going to be our y-intercept. The starting point is always the y-intercept. Each gallon of gasoline added to the fuel tank weighs 6 pounds. Okay, so that is our rate. We want to know how much the plane will weigh after it's been filled up with 56 gallons of fuel. So we're going to write an equation. Well, we have our slope, or our rate, and that's 6 pounds per gallon of fuel. Each gallon, that helps us understand it. Our B is 2,575. So this is just as simple as y equals 6x plus 2,575. From here, we have a slope-intercept form equation. We can answer the question, how much will our plane weigh after it's been loaded up with 56 gallons of fuel? And in this case, x is our gallons, so 56 gallons would mean that we're going to put it in here next to the 6. And we now have an equation that we can simplify. So this is going to turn into y equals 336 plus 2,575. When we simplify that, we get 2,911 pounds. So the plane weighs 2,911 pounds after it's been loaded up with 56 gallons of fuel. In this question, example 3, Dylan and Ethan are buying tickets for a Space Center online. They pay a cost per ticket plus a processing fee. So here we know that in y equals mx plus b, the cost per ticket is going to be the m, and the processing fee is the b, because the processing fee is by order, not by ticket. So Dylan buys 4 tickets for $72. And Ethan buys 6 tickets for $102. So because we're talking about the cost per ticket, the M being the number of tickets, that's the X value, okay? Then we have our Y value, that's the total cost that they paid. So we're going to write and solve a linear equation to determine how much it would cost to buy 11 tickets. So they don't tell you how much it costs for one individual ticket or what the processing fee is. And that's how you know that you have to find the 2 points. So here, we're going to find the slope first. So I'm going to do 102 minus 72 and 6 minus 4. That's when I'm all done with this, this is going to give me how much the cost is per ticket, which in this case, it is $15 per ticket. Now, I don't know what the fee is for the processing, so we have to figure that out. So we are going to follow the rules just as if we would when we are given 2 points and asked to write an equation in slope-intercept form. We find the slope and pick a point. I'm going to use 4 and 172. And I'm going to use point slope form. So y minus 72 equals 15 times x minus 4. I'm going to distribute here to get 15x minus 60. I'm going to add 72 to both sides and get y equals 15x plus 12. So I can see from this that my equation, 15x or 15 is the cost per ticket and $12 is the processing fee. So we want to figure out how much it would cost to buy 11 tickets. So we're going to do 15 times 11 plus 12. And that, once we simplify it, gives us $177 total. For our last question and example here, we are going to use this form, standard form, to help us. And that's because we have 2 rates here. We have the cost per pound for a hamburger and the cost per pound for a chicken. So, and we know how much money she has to spend. So here's how we tell that we're using standard form. We have per pounds, but we have 2 values. We have hamburger and chicken. So as in the directions, it mentions when you're using standard form, it's important to name your variables. So I'm going to use X for hamburgers, and I'm going to use Y for chicken. So when I'm doing my equation, I'm going to attach the cost per pound to my hamburger to the X. So 2.75X. And her cost per chicken, 3.50 to the Y. And what she has to spend is $75. So here we can now, we've just written a linear equation. It is okay that there are decimals in this standard form equation. I'm not going to require you in this instance to make sure that there are no decimals because you don't need to. We can solve the problem just fine without doing that. So we want to find how much of pounds of chicken Josie can afford if she buys 12 pounds of hamburger. So we know that if she's buying 12 pounds of hamburger, I'm going to put the 12 with the X. And I'm going to solve for Y, which is my chicken. So when I do this, I get 33 plus $3.50 times Y equals 75. I'm going to subtract 33 from both sides because I want to solve for that Y. I get 3.50Y equals 42. And then I divide both sides by 3.50. So we can find out that Josie can also buy 12 pounds of chicken.